Hi, welcome to Brian Curtis's YouTube channel. My name is Brian Curtis. What's your favorite intro, Ken? What do you think is the best intro for a video?
I've listened to a few of them.
I like Cletus McFarland's YouTube intro.
What's his intro?
It's hell yeah, brother. Welcome to the Cletus McFarland YouTube channel. And then he's got the twin turbos thing with him like putting his hands up like this.
Oh, is that what that's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. We've already pretty much talked about everything that we could possibly talk about. I don't think there's really going to be much on this video that we already haven't talked about. We should have been recording the whole time in the last 30 minutes.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we haven't talked about, but it's...
We haven't talked about?
Oh, that's Snoqualmie Falls that way. Historic downtown. No. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I could edit this video later. I didn't even, that one video that we made, I never even put online.
No. Well, I mean, it's just like how much stuff can be talked about. I mean, there's an infinite amount of things. We don't have words in the English language to...
Oh, yeah, we were talking about gender identity, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What does it mean to be a boy? It means you have an XY chromosome.
Well,
You
right.
can believe what you want. You can believe yourself that you're a turtle. But I mean, people are still going to see a person.
I think the problem that you have really is a language problem, because language is like a tool. The reason you have language is because it's useful. Because if I want to say, watch out for that tree, how do I communicate that so you don't hit a tree? Or,
Instead
whatever.
of driving towards the tree and say, do you believe the tree is there or do you not? And
Right.
if you have trouble making that decision before you run into it, then,
Well, yeah, and just the reason I brought that, is just because, so like the reason we have words like boy and girl and man and woman is because those words are useful. Because if I want to say, hey, there's a boy, that means something, and people are trying to change what that means, but they don't understand that like the reason we have those words is because they're useful. They tell people something. Like when I say that's a man, that means that dude has a wiener.
or it appears as though he has a wiener.
Yeah.
Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't.
Yeah.
It could be somebody that removed it.
Oh crap! I'm on the.
You're getting back on the freeway. That's
Yeah.
all right.
No, we can take exit 25
Yeah.
and go up that way.
Or it could be somebody that wasn't born with one and they just look like a guy.
Yeah, but generally speaking, like that's information that people want to know. That's why we have those words, because I want to know if you're telling me that the village over 10 miles into the woods is all women or not.
I think
I wanna know that.
the rules of attraction are so you could be attracted to somebody and think that they're say I think that it's a woman, it's a man, but I mean instinctually you're going to know if you're truly attracted to them. Their gender probably really doesn't matter. Like if you found out later that you used to be a man, but you are genuinely like on a soul level attracted to him. I think there's a difference though. Most people, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard of a story. Usually it was sexual based. It was all based on physical, sexual preference. It had nothing to do with like a deeper soul attraction.
Well, that wasn't
Now
that.
there are deeper soul attractions where you're genuinely homosexual, right?
Yeah. Right.
Where you're genuinely, and I think some of that is harder for people to accept.
Maybe that was Alexander the Great. That was his thing.
Alexander the Great?
Yeah. All his boyfriends were.
Yeah.
Well,
So he was, but who's to say, you can't speak for anybody else though. I can't speak for anybody else as to whether or not they're, I mean, obviously we have family members that I believe are genuinely, at a soul level attracted to the same sex.
yeah.
There's nothing, that's not evil or anything. It's just what you're attracted to.
Yeah.
So it's like that discussion when you turn it into a belief system, then it just turns into gobbledygook.
Yeah. Well, I think
You have to think about what's actually happening there. Once you understand what's actually happening at a deeper level, then you're not why would you be in conflict with somebody else's choice anyway?
Do you remember what the plot or storyline was for the Crying Game? Remember the Crying Game? Because
I never watched that movie.
That guy was really. So there was a dude that was kind of a cross-dresser, and he was gay. And you don't know when you're watching the movie.
I thought that was like a murder mystery or something.
I don't remember what else was going on, but
I never watched it.
yeah, I remember a few of the scenes. There was the one scene where he's gonna have sex with this dude he thinks is a girl, and goes down and finds out there's a wiener there, and I think he barfs or something. But yeah, no, he actually is really he has to kind of confront all these ideas of attraction that he had, because it's a guy that he's actually really attracted to,
Right.
but he's not gay.
So I made a video yesterday about perception, and then I'm gonna stop this video. But something that I didn't talk about in perception is your perception creates reality. But if you're living in a false perception, then you're in conflict with reality. So you're constantly learning what the correct perception of reality is, and it all falls back under the law of one, right? Everything is one.
Yeah.
And so if you perceive yourself separate in any way, you're creating your own conflicts with reality. So, when you believe that you need to convince somebody of what to believe, for one thing, you're not allowing the natural evolution of growth and perception, because you have to allow people's perceptions to grow naturally. If you're trying to control somebody else's perception, then you're actually falling out. You're living in a false perception yourself, because you're trying to force somebody into believing what you believe, instead of just allowing the group consciousness to grow naturally. It's a very interesting concept, perception, right? Because I talked about it yesterday. How the Native Americans, this is commonly talked about, and I don't know if this is a 100% true story, but it sounds true, because people don't see things that they've never seen before. Right. The Native Americans didn't see the ships coming in because that image would never registered with their conscious mind, because your third eye is in the creation part of your biofield. So you're actually projecting an image off of something that you've recognized from your past.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen it before, you may not see it. So you could literally have things that are in your field of view that you're just not seeing, that you've never seen before.
Yeah, because I think the way it was described to me, one of my biology classes, they talked about it, how your visual cortex, it kind of goes through an area of your brain that filters out certain things that don't make sense. Something like that. There's and I can't remember what it's called. The signals go through. I think the example from one of those videos of what is it called? You don't know. You know that show they did with that deaf lady?
The show they did with the deaf lady.
It's like, you don't know something. What the bleep do you know? Something like that.
Right.
But anyway, they talked about this. So they did an experiment where they would show people a stop sign.
Right.
And on the stop sign, it would say STEP, step, instead of stop.
Right.
But because everything else was exactly like a stop sign, it was an octagon, it was red, the letters were white, everything, it just said step. But when they showed people this, and it was like 1 or 2 seconds, they would show them the image, and everybody thought it said stop.
Right.
And they reported actually seeing the word stop.
So your
brain changed the E
I've
to
seen
an O.
that. I think I've seen that study before, Because you're not gonna see the E until you look at it for probably like 10 seconds.
Yeah, because you have to get the reinforced image.
You've seen that red octagon too many times to not see the word stop.
Right.
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing because when you think about how reality works, that we're creating this reality, right? Everybody is co-creating this reality. You're working together with people. People are buying into ideas to make sure that those ideas grow. Like even Amazon is selling the idea of having a centralized, availability, and because they've created the least amount of resistance to get something, then people naturally go to it, right?
Yeah.
Everyone goes to the path of least resistance most of the time, but a lot of times by following your heart, you will follow the path of most resistance, which forces you to overcome all those fears. And so your perception of reality actually changes by doing that. So if you have a group of people that are overcoming their fears and following that perception of reality, what kind of abilities, what kind of things can you unlock as a group? This is something that I've always thought about, because there's not very many people that are doing this, right? In a group consciousness, if you come into agreement and start creating things, as long as you're not negatively impacting the environment around you, let's say, because if you're negatively impacting it, then you're getting a negative karmic cycle back, right? Like if you're pulling too much from your environment, or you're negatively impacting a natural organism. Let's say just like changing a weather pattern, right? If you had a large group of people that meditated and had this thought, it's like, we're going to create it's cloudy, let's make it sunny, right? Because you're not negatively impacting your environment. If you're perceiving it to be that way, how much could you actually impact it? Because I've done meditations and exercises in groups where I was sitting across from somebody where it felt like we were changing the weather, because and every time we did it, it felt like we changed the weather. Maybe when we're doing it consciously, but as a group, whatever our direction of consciousness was actually creating a change in the weather. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, perception is everything. But, you can't say, like, I'm going to perceive that that tree is going to turn into a mushroom. Well, then the tree is going to, balk at that, right? The tree isn't going to want that. So it's not like I can change somebody into something. But changing a pile of awarenesses and regrouping them into another pile of awarenesses isn't really negatively impacting those individual awarenesses themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Something to think about, guys. This is the end. Check out, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
It's pretty trippy.
Yeah.
Where